the balance with which Howard takes the shot. She's just kind of on a fade a little bit. Watch this, like, no, it's almost like finger.
So I tweeted out initially this was nothing. This is worse than I thought it was. Like this, again, I'm not going to say it's intentional because Angel just throws her arms around. But like, this is a flight.
I think Atlanta got something going on, bro. Like, let's look at it one more time. Slow motion. This is as pathetic as these four, well, I'm going to say 3 of the 4 hooligans at halftime just blabbing about Atlanta. We
really bad. That is really bad with the refs. I thought it was this one. When I said, oh, this is nothing, I thought it was this situation here.
Score briefly, because the biggest question might have been buried within the officiating. Each controversial whistle appeared to come at an especially important moment, and soon Caitlin Clark supporters were linking one ruling with the next. Then, Angel Reese and the Atlanta Dream entered the story, causing the whole situation to become even more unusual. Was this merely questionable officiating? Or could something deeper have been taking place away from view? What became particularly fascinating about
those 2 clips is that it involved the same referee. In the first clip, Caitlin Clark had the ball, and she basically wanted a foul called, and she throws a tantrum right in front of the ref, and the ref does nothing. Doesn't blow the whistle, doesn't even tee her up, nothing, okay? This same ref, the very next day, ended up reffing a game for the Atlanta Dream, and he makes a call. Angel didn't like it. She waves him off and walks away, and he tees her up. So to me, if you teed up one, you should have teed up the other, right? Right? You see, this is the evidence that showcases that there is bias in refereeing in the WNBA, particularly.
The game was already intense before the disputed sequence even took place. Indiana and Atlanta entered Sunday's contest with plenty on the line, and the Fever ultimately secured a 95-91 overtime win. Caitlin Clark recorded 26 points and 9 assists, while Angel Reese posted 15 points, 14 rebounds, and 6 assists for Atlanta. Wow.
I think that Angel Reese going against Caitlin Clark, she would try to show up at least in some sort of fashion, right? Well, she showed up physically. Now, when it comes to talent, oh my gosh, Caitlin Clark just embarrassed this girl. I mean, let me just play this. Let's not do too much talking. Look at Caitlin Clark just laughing. We'll get to how we got to this point of the game. Caitlin Clark enjoying the last laugh on Angel Reese, just trolling her, looking at her in disbelief like, what?
If you only focus on the final score, you miss the part of this game that has everyone questioning the officiating. There was a point when Indiana appeared close to losing a game it had battled all night to control, and the most unexpected figure in that sequence was neither Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, nor even the Dream. It reaches a point where it's...
This stuff isn't an accident. It's always happening to the same people and the same team. Y'all get out of here with it was an accident, it's a coincidence. Get out of here with that, bro. And in the same play, multiple times. Like, come on, bro. Like, people trying to get away with certain stuff, and it's just nasty, bro. It just shows people's character, and it shows y'all character too, because y'all will take up and make excuses.
For all of it, it was the whistle, and that's where things started getting interesting. The Fever were already caught in a game that seemed determined to defy expectations. Atlanta refused to go away. Indiana couldn't fully pull clear, and whenever the Fever looked ready to finish things off, the Dream somehow found another way to push the door back open.
WNBA's own rules. She is not looking at Caitlin Clark. I am not going to say this is intentional. It doesn't matter if it's intentional or not. It's a flagrant 1. If it's intentional, it's a flagrant 2. If it's not intentional, it's a flagrant 1. Like, if this is intentional, it's you toss her. Like, it's as simple as that. But like, this is the most obvious flagrant 1 I've seen. Like, she caught her in the neck. And then she's immediately going to the refs. Look at it. Go to the monitor, my neck. And
then came the crucial late-game officiating sequence. All at once, what had been a basketball contest started feeling like a courtroom. Everyone watching had a different opinion, and social media quickly switched into full detective mode. Some supporters believed Indiana was being squeezed by the officials. Others insisted the contact was valid and that the referees were simply doing their jobs. What made this sequence so controversial was not merely that a whistle sounded, it was that the ruling seemed to raise more questions than answers. Once the play went under review, viewers naturally expected the replay to resolve the dispute because that is supposed to be the entire point of getting another look. Instead, the review appeared to make the situation even harder to understand, especially for fans who felt there had not been enough contact to warrant what followed. That is where the frustration truly started. If officials are going to stop the action, inspect footage from several angles, and then change or uphold a call during a critical moment, the explanation should be clear enough for viewers to understand exactly what happened. Instead, many people were left wondering what the referees had actually seen and, more importantly, what action they believed justified the ruling. That does not automatically prove that the officials were trying to help Atlanta defeat Indiana, and it would be reckless to present an accusation of deliberate manipulation as an established fact without evidence. There is a significant difference between a bad call, an inconsistent ruling, and a deliberate attempt to influence the outcome. Those distinctions matter, particularly when the accusation involves professional referees and the integrity of a league.
I told y'all Angel Reese was garbage. I told y'all Angel Reese was pure garbage. How you like me now? How you like me now? How you like me now? Angel Reese, you had me laughing at you, girl. I told you, Angel Reese is a pure bum, the worst kind. Angel Reese is the type to steal the trash off your curb and try to see if she can go put it in her refrigerator. The girl can't make a layup the same.
Still, challenging the decision itself is entirely fair. Fans have every right to ask why one form of contact draws a whistle while another one does not. They can question why a replay review seems to deliver an outcome that does not line up with what they witnessed during the initial play. They can also wonder whether the officials enforced the rule accurately and consistently while the game was hanging in the balance. None of those questions demand a conspiracy theory. They simply demand an explanation for the ruling, and given how much attention officiating involving Caitlin Clark has already received, it was almost certain that this moment would face even greater scrutiny. Clark has openly discussed missed calls in earlier games, while Indiana coach Stephanie White has likewise emphasized the importance of consistency from officials. That context matters because once supporters start feeling that the standard is uneven, every questionable whistle becomes another piece of evidence and another argument in a debate that was already underway. Suddenly, one call is no longer simply one call. It becomes part of a broader discussion about whether Clark receives the same treatment as everyone else, whether the Fever are receiving the same officiating standard as their opponents, and whether the league truly understands how much scrutiny its referees are now facing. The irony is that Clark did not have to control every possession to become the central figure in this matchup. She simply continued keeping Indiana alive whenever the contest threatened to slip away.
So when I say, specifically on Threads, that I am concerned about the way that this game is going to turn out between the Fever and the Dream, this is what I mean. Though they were two different games, it involved the same referee, and the referee didn't have the same energy that he had for Caitlin for Angel. So I would not be surprised if we see some of this biased refereeing come during the game on Thursday, because it's very clear that there's some bias going on and that somebody is allowed to throw tantrums while somebody else is not even allowed to wave you.
Clark ended the night with 26 points and 9 assists as the Fever eventually survived a dramatic finish to defeat Atlanta 95-91 in overtime. That outcome matters because the disputed officiating sequence did not ultimately hand Atlanta the win Indiana had spent the night trying to avoid, but it certainly had the potential to alter the final result. That is the key difference between a questionable whistle early in the first quarter and one that happens when a close game is hanging by a thread. At the beginning of a matchup, there is still plenty of time for the game to balance itself out. A team can knock down a three, force a turnover, miss a free throw, adjust its defensive approach, or simply perform better during the next 30 minutes. The scoreboard has enough time to absorb an error. But when the game is tight late in the fourth quarter, every possession suddenly carries far greater importance. One whistle can determine who receives possession, where the inbound happens, how much clock remains, and whether one team gets the opportunity to seize control. When the difference is only a few points, a decision lasting just seconds can shape the entire conclusion. That is exactly why the review deserves examination, even without assuming malicious intent. The issue is not whether the referees wanted Atlanta to win. There is no verified evidence proving that. The more sensible question is whether the officials made the correct decision. If they did, the league should be capable of clearly explaining why the ruling was justified. If they did not, admitting the mistake would be much better than leaving fans to spend several days inventing their own theories. Because whenever officials make a controversial ruling and the league offers little explanation, the internet quickly fills that empty space. Caitlin Clark is clearly a
better basketball player than Angel Reese.
But you know what's crazy? Because I don't...
But Angel Reese is a good player, but they just play two different positions. Like, it's not even the same type of game.
But there's always a conversation about, y'all don't see that? About who's better out of the two ladies, Caitlin or Angel Reese? I always thought...
I don't see that conversation anymore.
Okay, not anymore, right? But in the beginning, yes. And I actually started to watch some of the clips because I wanted to determine for myself. And then I was like, oh, Caitlin is obviously really a great player. I don't know why they even have the conversation. But Angel Reese is amazing as well, too. But anyway, they love to put the women against each other. So instantly that caught the headlines. That
eagerly fills the empty space. And the internet, as everyone knows, has never encountered an unexplained sports controversy and decided to patiently wait for additional details. Instead, the internet instantly turns into a detective agency with Wi-Fi. Before long, fans are slowing replays down frame by frame, circling players on their screens, studying body positioning, comparing earlier whistles, and constructing entire theories from 3 seconds of basketball. That is exactly why transparency matters. The WNBA cannot determine what every supporter believes, but it can ensure that its rules and review process are clear. If officials decide that contact reaches the threshold for a foul, viewers should be able to understand what specific contact led to that ruling. If a review overturns the initial decision, the league should explain what the replay showed that the officials failed to recognize at first. That explanation matters even more. When the broadcast crew itself seems surprised by the outcome, the commentators are viewing the same replay as everyone at home. They're studying the same angles, watching the same players, and attempting to interpret the same sequence as it unfolds. When their reaction indicates uncertainty, viewers naturally become even more interested in understanding what the officials noticed. That does not mean commentators are automatically right. It simply means the league faces a communication problem when viewers cannot immediately understand why the final decision was reached. And none of this suggests that Caitlin Clark should receive preferential treatment, because that would be completely absurd.
Doing Angel Reese the worst favor anybody can do. It is clear the Sophie Cunningham and Caitlin Clark connection was not prepared for by anybody in the WNBA. Do y'all realize that this game today between the Dream and the Fever showed that the whole plan with this Caitlin Clark deal was to make sure she felt isolated and she felt alone and she needed to be accepted?
Clark is a professional basketball player, not a celebrity who is immune to officiating. She will commit fouls, miss shots, turn the ball over, make poor decisions, and occasionally get beaten on defense. If she commits a genuine foul, the officials should call it. The same standard must apply to every player on the court, because that is ultimately what fair officiating is supposed to represent. The question is not whether Caitlin Clark deserves special treatment, nor is it whether Angel Reese should receive different treatment because of the attention surrounding her. The real issue is whether the exact same rules are being enforced consistently, regardless of which player is involved, which team is at home, or how much pressure is mounting as the clock runs down. That consistency matters even more when the players involved are Clark and Reese, because their matchups have become one of the biggest storylines in women's basketball. These games no longer quietly appear on the schedule, with nobody caring until the opening tip. They arrive with huge expectations, enormous audiences, constant social media discussion, and enough surrounding debate to make an ordinary basketball game feel like a championship matchup. And every decision from the officials can suddenly become part of a much broader argument about fairness, consistency, and whether both sides are being judged by the same standard. That places tremendous responsibility on the referees, because they cannot control the attention surrounding Clark and Reese, but they can control how carefully they manage the biggest moments. When the game is tight and every possession matters, officials must recognize that one questionable ruling can become much more important than dozens of routine calls that nobody notices. That is precisely what happened here, because Sunday's contest showed how quickly a competitive basketball game can turn into an officiating controversy. Howard or Alicia Gray? I think Ryan Howard.
Airballs a shot to win the game late. It lands in Angel Reese's lap, and collectively the whole world said, yeah, she ain't making that. Collectively, the whole world said, oh, Angel Reese has it? Oh, and it's a layup? Yeah, she's breaking that. And lo and behold, point blank range to win the game, we get a classic Angel Reese pray up and a...
The irony is that Atlanta had genuine opportunities to win this game without needing a controversial whistle to rescue them. The Dream were right there when the game reached its most important moments, and Angel Reese had an opportunity near the basket late in regulation that could have completely changed the ending. The shot did not fall, and when Naz Hillman followed up the miss, that attempt also failed to find the bottom of the net. Instead of Atlanta celebrating a dramatic victory, the game moved into overtime. That changed everything. The Fever suddenly had another 5 minutes to recover, regroup, and finish what they had started, and that is exactly what they did. After everything that had happened during regulation, Indiana still had to execute. When the pressure was at its highest, and the Fever ultimately walked away with a 95-91 victory. That is important because no referee can actually put the ball through the basket for a team. Clark finished with 26 points and 9 assists, helping stabilize the Fever when the game became increasingly chaotic, while Reese still produced an impressive statistical performance of 15 points, 14 rebounds, and 6 assists. That means it would be unfair to reduce Reese's entire night to one missed opportunity, because basketball is not decided by one possession alone. However, one possession can become the possession everyone remembers. The WNBA should be able to determine whether the original call was correct, whether the review was conducted properly, whether the correct rule was applied, whether the resulting free throws were appropriate, and whether the officials handled the situation according to the league's established standards.
Like 7 layups in the first quarter. Meanwhile, me, the GOAT, Caitlin Clark, I'm putting on shows every single night. 26 points, 9 assists. Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever humiliate Angel Reese. Or maybe Angel Reese just humiliated herself, as the Indiana Fever go on to win. 29 points, 9 assists. Am I looking like the MVP?
If the league expects fans to have confidence in its officiating, it cannot simply ask viewers to accept every disputed decision without providing an explanation. When replay is used to settle an important ruling, viewers naturally want to understand what changed, what the officials noticed, and why the final call was judged to be correct. Otherwise, replay can produce the opposite result from what it was intended to achieve. Rather than eliminating uncertainty, it can create even more of it. Rather than ending the debate, it can give that debate another 10,000 comments, and rather than making the officials seem more credible, it can leave fans questioning whether everyone is actually watching the same footage. That becomes particularly important when Caitlin Clark is involved, because the enormous attention surrounding her has completely transformed the environment in which these games take place. Still, the league can make its standards clear enough that even fans who disagree with a ruling can understand why it was made. The WNBA has spent years developing its audience, promoting its stars, extending its reach, and turning individual players into household names. Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese have become major parts of that growth, while their rivalry has generated tremendous interest in women's basketball. But greater attention also brings greater responsibility. As the audience grows larger, every detail will receive more scrutiny. And as the games become more meaningful, consistent officiating becomes even more important.
The best part about all of this, the best part about all of this, and I mean all of this, is as this happens, Caitlin's laughing at her. Caitlin is laughing at Angel Reese missing the open layup. This is my favorite WNBA picture of the season. Is Caitlin Clark just laughing at Angel Reese?
And the more deeply fans care about the result, the more seriously the league must address questions surrounding controversial decisions. That is why this matchup should not be remembered solely as another Clark versus Reese showdown. It should also serve as another reminder that officiating has become part of the WNBA discussion, whether the league likes it or not. And perhaps the most ironic part of everything is that after all the whistles, reviews, debates, and speculation, the Fever simply refused to follow the ending some people expected. Indiana went into overtime, managed the pressure, and ultimately finished the job. Clark and her teammates survived Atlanta's final surge, moved past the controversy, and left with the victory. So the scoreboard has already answered the question of who won the game. The remaining issue is what the officials saw during that disputed sequence and whether the WNBA believes the ruling was handled properly. That is something the league can explain. And if the league wants fans to stop becoming detectives whenever an unusual call appears on their screens, perhaps the simplest answer is to provide the explanation they are demanding, because Indiana already settled the basketball debate on the court. Now the WNBA has a chance to settle the officiating debate away from it.